Have you ever had that dream? You know that feeling when you're caught in one and it starts off, well, normal enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're walking down a hallway, maybe somewhere you recognize, an old school or an office building you used to work in.
Yeah, familiar territory.
Right. It feels familiar, but
Yeah.
something's just a little bit off.
Mm-hmm.
The light might be weird, or the air feels kind of heavy. Maybe the doors are all the wrong sizes, that sort of thing.
That unsettling quality, yeah.
And as you keep going down this hall, this sense of dread just starts creeping in. You feel like something terrifying is, I don't know, inevitable.
The tension builds.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
The atmosphere gets heavier, darker maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just as things are hitting that breaking point,
Yeah.
just as you realize something terrible is about to happen, maybe something fatal,
You wake up.
you jolt awake.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it felt peaceful just moments before, didn't it? Just walking down that seemingly normal hallway. Until, bam, it wasn't.
The switch flips.
And look, you've probably never told anyone about this specific scenario, but maybe you have this dream sometimes. And you always wonder, why? Why do you always seem to wake up right before you find out what happens? Like, what's actually going on when you're supposedly dying in a dream?
It's a really common and fascinating question, and it's something our sources get into. What if, instead of it just being random, what if your mind is actually waking you up on purpose?
On purpose?
Yeah. We did a deep dive into a bunch of sources asking exactly that, looking at the theories behind why we tend to just snap awake when faced with, well, death in a dream.
Okay, let's unpack that then. So our mission here is to explore what these sources suggest are the main ideas behind this really baffling experience, sorting through the theories to see what seems most plausible based on the research.
Well, first off, the sources are pretty quick to point out that studying dreams is incredibly complex. Finding definitive proof for any one theory, it's really challenging.
Right, it's not like we can just, hook someone up to a brain scanner and perfectly map the feeling of dream death or whatever happens next.
Exactly. That's not really feasible. But among the different ideas floating around in these sources, there is one theory that comes up again and again. It seems to be the most biologically plausible explanation for why you might wake up right then.
Okay. And what is it?
It basically boils down to intense stress.
Stress?
Uh-huh.
From dying in the dream. I
Yeah.
mean, that absolutely tracks those moments you described
Yeah.
in the hallway. They're usually pretty terrifying.
Precisely. The perceived threat of death, even when it's just in a dream, is one of the most powerful stressors your mind can, simulate. It's not passive. Your brain and body react like it's real danger.
Okay, so how does that work? How does simulated stress physically wake you up? The sources must get into the mechanics there.
They do. The leading explanation found in the sources ties it to a massive biological response, specifically the release of stress hormones. Think adrenaline.
Adrenaline. Okay, the fight or flight hormone.
Exactly that. Your body basically dumps a huge amount of adrenaline into your system because of that extreme perceived threat. Now think about deep sleep, especially REM sleep, where we have these vivid dreams.
Right, you're physically relaxed, muscles are sort of paralyzed.
Exactly. It's a state characterized by muscle atonia and a generally relaxed physiology, even though your brain is highly active.
So wait, you're supposed to be physically still and calm, but suddenly your system gets this massive jolt of, like, goo hormone.
That seems to be the core idea. The sources suggest that this huge rush of adrenaline, along with other stress responses, is just fundamentally incompatible with staying asleep. That sudden, overwhelming physiological arousal basically overrides the brain's signals to maintain sleep.
Ah, okay. So the physical jolt awake is literally your system being flooded by adrenaline because the dream got too scary. That would explain why you often wake up feeling, like your heart's racing a mile a minute.
Yes, that feeling, like one person in our sources put it, like their heart was racing a bazillion miles an hour. It's the body's hardwired response kicking in because of the simulated threat.
Makes sense.
So the sources tend to lean towards this being less about your brain not knowing intellectually what happens after death in a story sense, and more about a really primitive biological alarm bell. It's triggered by the sheer intensity of the experience of impending death within the dream itself.
Right. It's your body effectively hitting the panic button saying, whoa, this stress level is way too high. Abort sleep.
Pretty much. Now, while this adrenaline surge is presented as the sort of leading biological theory, the sources do definitely acknowledge that dreams are incredibly complex. Other factors, other theories, they might play a role too, perhaps in different types of dreams or for different people. Sleep science still holds a lot of mysteries.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's never just one simple thing, is it? But based on what these sources are highlighting, maybe when you have that dream, it's not just weirdness. Maybe your mind, your body, is actively reacting to that simulated danger in a way that physically yanks you out of it.
Yeah, your body responding to the dream as if it were entirely real. It really highlights how powerful our subconscious and our physiological responses are, even when we're completely out. The system's just trying to manage the input, you know?
Yeah. So, thinking about this, what does it mean for you, the listener, next time you find yourself walking down that creepy dream hallway? It suggests that moment you wake up, it might not be a glitch at all. It could be your body's ultimate stress response just doing its job.
And it leaves us with a question, one that the science, at least as discussed in these sources, doesn't really have an answer for yet.
Which is, next time you're in that unsettling dream hallway, are you going to make it all the way to the end before waking up? Or will that adrenaline kick in again?